Think it's gonna be good? Could be really bad. Probably.
Welcome to Ty and News Review on The Conjuring 1 and The Conjuring 2. This is part of our Remember One series when we take a look at old movies and just see how they were. We normally do Remember Ones every Tuesday.
We always do new movie reviews every Saturday. If you are short on time, there's a timestamp in the description below. You can fast forward to our overall thoughts on the film. Let's get to it.
When it was 1992.
So it's probably been 2, 3, 4 years since I saw The Conjuring.
Oh, easy.
And ever since I saw The Conjuring 1, I've been trying to get Lee to see it. And obviously hates horror movies. For the most part. And he has declined my invitations over and over and over.
Many times.
Until this week, where The Nun's coming out on Friday, and it's only appropriate to do a Remember When that is in relation to The Nun.
Right. And The Conjuring's a great place to start. And for someone that doesn't like horror, I thought this movie was great. It's such a good... I want to use the word starter horror movie, but that seems so negative to what he's trying to do. But the movie's so accessible. You know, you started out, there's tense scenes, and there's tense interactions, but it really prepares you for what happens later, which is what's wrong with modern horror today. There's too much jump scares, you know, too much panic in the heart. My heart can't take it. My heart can't take these modern jump scares. And James Wan is like, no. We don't do jump scares. We do real scares. And everything that is scary, that's when you jump in the movie. But that doesn't happen until much later.
Right.
That's what I like it. Accessible.
Right. Obviously, these films were set in the 70s. Ed and Lorraine Warren, that was kind of like their heyday, their golden era. They were actual demonologists or paranormal investigators, whatever you want to call them. And James Wan is taking these particular stories and putting them on film. Obviously, they're Hollywoodized.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Maybe a little embellished, a couple details thrown in here or there. But these things actually happen. And that is a horrifying thought. Like, at the end of the films and the credits, it shows the actor who plays the character and the person in real life. It like has the snapshots back to back.
And they look so similar. Oh, yeah. It's so scary.
And it makes it real. And it's like, okay, how in the world is someone going to like discredit the fact that there's an afterlife when these things are taking place?
Yeah, I agree.
Like, so horrific. These things that are happening, and honestly, probably my favorite horror movie in the last 5 years is The Conjuring 1. It sets up so much for, I think, the future of horror. Horror was really struggling till The Conjuring 1 came out. We had As Above, So Below. We had a lot of just wretched films that were coming out. The Devil Inside. Yeah, and all these movies had hype. And they all tanked and crashed. And I think The Conjuring is like the modern horror savior.
Yeah, well, it was a movie that proved that horror was figured out before, right? With The Exorcist and even Alfred Hitchcock movies.
Years before.
Exactly. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, it was more of going back to the roots. Adding more, modern imagery where
technology.
Things are much scarier and you can do a lot crazier things. But you don't have to have these crazy moments to have something scary. You can just have an interaction with another, even door, not even creature, just be scary. And that's the beauty of this movie. And I love the simplicity. Simplicity in horror, I think, is rare nowadays.
I think so too. Like, some of the scariest scenes in The Conjuring 1, you don't see anything.
Exactly. You see nothing.
Yeah.
You only see your imagination.
Yep. The suspense is built up, and you're imagining this figure that's in the corner, and it's dark, and it never reveals itself. Obviously reveals itself at the very end, but like he said, it's preparing you, and it's getting you ready for it. So when the reveal happens, it's not out of the blue. Yeah. It's not overwhelming out of the blue. So obviously we have The Conjuring. The Conjuring 2 comes out. How do you feel like The Conjuring 2 compared to the first one?
I think the second one he tried to go too much with making a story rather than a horror film. Whereas he wanted to create these characters, and he made you want to feel for them. And granted, all the characters did well. The acting was phenomenal, frankly. But it was too much of this character buildup and not enough of the suspense, where I felt the last 30 minutes of the second one, all of a sudden they throw you into this horror movie, but it wasn't really set up like a horror movie for a lot of it. It was set up more of a mystery film almost. Like you don't know what's happening. You're putting the pieces together. You don't know, what the demon's doing or where the demon's going or if the demon's good or bad. This mystery thing. And right when they figure out, like, oh, this demon's a bad guy, it's just boom, 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 right?
Right. I think tonally it's very different.
Oh, yeah.
The first one is more set up as a suspense, whereas the second one's more set up as a mystery. And I think that's because that's how it probably happened in real life. Because Ed and Lorraine Warren were sent away in the actual events of the second movie. And they're like, oh, it's a hoax. She's throwing chairs. She's throwing tables. It's not the demon throwing chairs and tables. So you guys can go home.
Right.
And so obviously that was kind of like the bait for the demon to come in and, get the holy Christians out of there. But I think that's kind of the point. And I don't think James Wan wanted to recreate the first movie.
I agree. And on that, to not recreate the first movie, with the second one, I think he went above and beyond in the fact of imagery.
Yes.
I think the imagery in the second one, much more terrifying.
The Nun.
Oh yeah, the Nun is a horrifying character that will probably be horrifying this Friday. But the things the Nun does, with the water scenes and the using of the person on the couch, his name's like Bill Williams or something?
Bill Wilkins.
Bill Wilkins. And the fact that this demon can use another soul, to
As a conduit.
Yeah, that is what's terrifying about that one, I think.
I think so too. I think the demon, Valak, demon in the second movie is called Valak, is more powerful than the demon in the first movie.
Right. It's a build on.
Right. Right, which making a third movie, there's probably got to be a lot of pressure. James Wan said so himself. He's like, I'm not going to even put a release date out there. There's no projection. He's like, when I'm done writing it, I'm done writing it. He wants to make it as brilliant as possible, which I really respect the guy for. I mean, The Conjuring 2 isn't as good as the first film, but it's still a great horror film.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't consider it a bad film. I would consider it, frankly, a scarier film than the first one.
Sure. The Nun is not a pleasant person.
No, Crooked Man too, man.
Oh, the Crooked Man, yeah.
When it was 1992.
So what do you think about these movies?
The Conjuring 1 came out in 2013 and probably the best post-2000 horror movie on the market to that point. I think this year's Hereditary is the only one that beats it. And truthfully, James Wan probably even paved the road to Hereditary. He's just a master. He doesn't ever make any mistakes in his horror movies. And I think that even The Conjuring 2 just was a good playoff of the original. A couple things in The Conjuring 2 bothered me as far as a little bit of the pacing with the love scenes, a little bit of too much happiness. That sounds really messed up, but
in a horror movie that makes sense, right?
yeah, like there's scenes where it's like, is this a family movie? No, this is a hard R. This is a pretty crazy, scary movie. So that takes me out of the second one a little bit, but I still really enjoyed the second one as well. I'm going to give Conjuring 1 a 9 out of 10 and The Conjuring 2 an 8 out of 10.
The Conjuring 1 is easily the best horror film that I've seen since The Descent. Back when I saw The Descent, I didn't think you could make a better horror film. I just thought it was aesthetically perfect. All the pieces were set up just in the right way. And then seeing The Conjuring 1, Juan really knew what he was doing here. He has a lot of Alfred Hitchcock vibes in it, which really stuck with me. And I think he really nailed it here. There's a couple of dialogue choices he uses in this film that is a little questionable. But other than that, I think the first one's a 9 out of 10. With the second movie, I think he went a little bit too much on the scary side, and he didn't focus the way he did with the first one. You know, he's coming off that success. That's just kind of bound to happen. Like Ty said with the love scenes, it was really out of place.
Maybe some studio interference.
Sure. But
I would like to think at least.
Yeah, you'd like to hope.
Yeah.
And that kind of took me out. So I'm going to Conjuring 2 a 7 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching our review on Conjuring 1 and Conjuring 2. Please give us some feedback in the comments, follow us on socials, and all that juicy goodness.
For sure. Like we said, we're going to be doing The Nun on Saturday. It's going to be so scary. Anytime you see a Conjuring Universe movie in theaters, it's just groundbreakingly scary. So I am really excited for it, and Lee might pee his pants.
I will. I'm going to be my man.
It's going to happen.